I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain, I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean, I've got love like an ocean in my soul. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Great job, friends. Let's do it one more time. Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
Dear God, 3 things I pray to you today: that we can see you more clearly, we can love you more dearly, we can follow you more nearly today and every day. Amen. Hi friends, I'm glad you're back with me this week. Do you remember what we talked about last week? We talked about a story of faith. The Noah and the Ark story, where Noah had faith that God would protect him and his family and all the animals from the rain while they were on the ark. This is another story about faith. Now, way a long time ago in the land of Egypt, Egypt is where the pyramids are, friends, there was a ruler, and his name was Pharaoh. And Pharaoh lived in a palace with his family, and all the Egyptians lived near the palace. There was another people that lived there too, friends, the Israelites, but they lived in a town way on the edge of Egypt, in small houses. They barely had enough food to survive. Because you see, friends, the Israelites were slaves. That means Pharaoh made them work all day, really hard work, and they didn't even get paid. They barely got enough food just so they could work more. Now there was one special Israelite, friends. His name was Moses. And Moses was special because he grew up in the palace with Pharaoh. Can you believe that? Now, Moses grew a little bit older and a little bit older, and he started to get really frustrated. Every day he would look out and see his people, the Israelites, slaving away, doing hard work and not getting paid. Finally, he decided to go to Pharaoh, and he said, "Pharaoh, I'm tired of seeing my people, the Israelites, working as slaves for you. Just let me take them. I'll lead them out of Egypt and will never bother you again." And Pharaoh said, "Ha! That's ridiculous. They're my slaves. They keep me powerful. They make me rich. I can't let them go." Moses was very sad, so he left Egypt and he wandered about. Time passed, friends, and Moses grew older. And one day, while he was wandering in the desert, he saw something very strange. He saw a bush. But not just any bush, friends. This bush was on fire. It was a burning bush. And even though it was on fire and it burned, it never turned to ash. It never burned up. And Moses tiptoed closer. And he heard a voice.
Moses.
And he said, "Yes, I'm here." And it was God. And God said,
Go down, Moses, way down to Egypt land, and tell old Pharaoh to let my people go.
and Moses said, Wait, let my people go? But God, what? I don't understand. What? And God said again,
Go down, Moses, way down to Egypt land, and tell old Pharaoh to let my people go.
and Moses said, but God, I already tried that. I already asked him, and he said no. And God said,
Moses, I will be with you.
and Moses said, well, what if he doesn't? What if he doesn't let him go? And God said,
Leave it to me, Moses.
so Moses went back to Egypt. He came to Pharaoh, and he said, Pharaoh! And Pharaoh said, is that you, Moses? And Moses said, yes, it's me. And I want you to let my people go. Because you know what? I heard the voice of God. And God said to me, go on, Moses, way down to Egypt land, and tell old Pharaoh to let my people go. And Pharaoh said, ha! What are you going to do about it? How are you going to make me? And Moses said, I won't make you. God will. And Pharaoh said, I don't believe in your God. In Egypt, I'm the God. And then Moses turned to walk away. And all of a sudden, Pharaoh heard, ribbit, ribbit. And he looked, and there were frogs everywhere. There were frogs on the floor. There were frogs in the bed. And there was even a big one right on his head. He looked out the window, and everywhere in Egypt was covered in frogs. Ribbit, ribbit. But he looked over where the Israelites lived, and no frogs. And Pharaoh cried. He said, Moses! And Moses came back. And Pharaoh said, Moses, get these frogs out of here. If you get these frogs out of here, I promise I'll let your people go. And Moses said, what frogs? And Pharaoh looked around, and there were no frogs. And Moses said, all right, I'll be taking my Israelite people, and I'll be going. He started to walk away, and Moses said, wait a minute. Now that the frogs are gone, I changed my mind. Your people are staying my slaves. And Moses said, but, and Pharaoh said, no buts, they're mine. And Moses said, well, God will help me free my people. And Pharaoh said, he already sent frogs, and the frogs are gone. So what are you going to do about it now? And then Moses turned to walk away, and Pharaoh heard, bzzz, bzzz, and he swatted a fly. Ah! And there were flies everywhere. There were flies everywhere surrounding him. There were flies out the door. There were flies on the floor. There were so many flies. He looked outside, and there were flies covering Egypt. All the animals were trying to get the flies away, and people were swatting flies. And he looked over to the Israelites. No flies. And so he yelled to Moses, Moses! And Moses said, yes, Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said, Moses, get these flies out of here. Get these flies out of here, and I promise I'll let your people go. And Moses said, what flies? And Pharaoh looked around, and there were no flies. And Moses turned to walk away and said, I'll be taking my people now. And Pharaoh said, wait a minute. Now that the frogs are gone, now that the flies are gone, your people are staying mine forever. And Moses said, but Pharaoh, you... And Pharaoh said, no buts, they're mine, my slaves. And Moses said, Pharaoh, this isn't going to get better. And Pharaoh said, there's already been flies, there's already been frogs, what are you going to do about it? And Moses turned to walk away. And just then, Pharaoh heard. And all of a sudden, balls of ice started crashing through the palace roof. It was hail, balls of ice falling from the clouds. And he looked out the window, and there was hail falling over all of Egypt, crushing people's houses, and people were hiding under tables. And he looked over to the Israelites, and no hail. And he called to Moses. He said, Moses! And Moses came and said, yes, Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said, Moses, get this hail to stop, and I promise I'll let your people go. And Moses said, what hail? And Pharaoh looked, and there was no hail. And Moses said, I'll be taking my people and leaving now. And he turned to walk away, and Pharaoh said, wait a minute. And Moses said, Pharaoh, this is ridiculous. You promised. And Pharaoh said it again. What are you going to do about it? Now, this doesn't just happen a few times. This happened over and over. There were locusts that came, which were like bugs that ate up all the crops. And there was a famine that spread, and there was no food. And finally, Moses came to Pharaoh one last time and said, Pharaoh, we've tried everything. God has showed you frogs and flies and hail and dust and locusts and plague and famine, and you won't let his people go. This time, Pharaoh, you let his people go, or you will regret it. This time for sure. And Pharaoh was a little bit scared, but he said, no. So Moses left. And that night, friends, a darkness spread over all of Egypt. A thick darkness. And it was very sad and very scary. And when Pharaoh looked out the window to where the Israelites lived, there was no darkness. And Pharaoh called Moses and said, Moses, fine. Just go. Get out of here. I never want to see you again. Take your God and take your people and leave me. And Moses led the people of the Israelites out of slavery, out of Egypt, into freedom. You see, friends, Pharaoh didn't trust Moses and didn't trust God. But Moses trusted. Even when Pharaoh said no and changed his mind all those times, Moses trusted God, that God would help Moses free his people. And just like that, friends, we can trust God. God will take care of us, even when it's scary, even when it's dark, even when there's coronavirus. God will take care of us. Now stand up, 'cause it's time for the creed.
I believe in God above. I believe in Jesus' love. I believe in the Spirit too. Comes to teach me what to do.
All right, friends, it's time for the Our Father. Stand up and show me your hands and pray with me, okay? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Now, friends, thank you for joining me today in chapel. Show me this hand. Let's practice the sign of the cross. Okay? Follow along. May God the Almighty Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit be with you today and every day. Amen. Go now in peace to love and serve the Lord. Thanks be to God.